We are excited for today. We got the legendary Ryan Federico.
Welcome to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast.
We're your host, David and Al Denning.
What happens when a millennial couple dives headfirst into the insurance world, scales $1 million remote business, and decides to share the journey with the world?
You get the Modern Insurance Agent.
Here, we reveal the messy, magical, and sometimes hilarious realities of building a business and a life you love.
From traveling the globe to building remote teams. Yes, even working remotely on top of a mountain in the Philippines. We're sharing insights, strategies, and plenty of laughs to help agents and entrepreneurs succeed.
Because, let's face it, success isn't just about hitting numbers.
It's about designing a life that works for you.
So let's dive in and build something extraordinary together.
Ryan is the founder of AutoMentor. AutoMentor sees over 1 million agent candidates per year. Yes, you heard that right. 1 million candidates a year that's coming through AutoMentor for people looking for opportunities and where to work in this industry and how to get into this industry. Over 15,000 agents enroll annually through the platform. And Ryan has personally recruited, just himself, 1,500 agents. And in addition to AutoMentor, Ryan owns an agency that's done over 10 million in production. And I believe they're doing 2,000 to 3,000 recruiting leads a day, which is insane to even think about. And Ryan's personally produced at a high level himself with, I believe, over a 60,000 month personally as well, which is awesome, guys. So comes from the industry, has seen growing an agency, realized, hey, there's a solution to be solved here. Let's create it and put it in place, and did so. So Ryan, welcome to the webinar. Love to hop in. And if I missed anything on the intro, let me know.
Man, I think you nailed it. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you two and the impact that you've had in not only my life, but my agency's life. There's so many agents that are from our team and from our agency that are in the Jumpstart Go community using the organic lead system, and some that are in Closers Click. And man, it's just been such a great addition to our business. And, I guess keeping things sort of separate, the, recruiting company versus, our agency, they're kind of intertwined because that's how one was started, but man, you guys have made such an impact on us, and so happy to be here with this community, and anything I can do to help give back. I'd love to, lead with some value. Like, this doesn't necessarily need to be a sales pitch about AutoMentor and why to join AutoMentor and why AutoMentor is awesome. It is, and you should be on it. But just if there's anything that I can do, anything that I've learned over the last, 8 years of building an agency that I can maybe impart on somebody who's new that's starting, or any type of strategies that we've solved that maybe I can give you a leg up on, that's what my hope is for today.
I love it. And that's exactly what we're going to dive in. Absolutely agree. AutoMentor is amazing. But as anybody knows, like, if I'm going to start and build something, where better to start, build, and test this before I take it to anybody else than myself, right? And that's what you did, right? License.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think so. You hit the nail on the head earlier when you were talking about doing 2 full-time jobs at once. So before I came into insurance, I was working in another industry. I was a sales trainer, a sales manager. I was building sales teams already for a Fortune 500 company. And, I went through all of the same problems that I'm sure most W-2 people go to, feeling like you're doing more work than the people above you and not getting recognized for it, and not really in control of your time or your income, and, politics and resentments and stuff like that, and getting passed over for promotions and the whole nine. And when this industry was brought to me, because it was actually a person that used to work for me that called me out of the blue. I remember I was in Spokane, Washington, and I was at a Hampton Inn or something like that. Shout out to Hamptonality. It might have been a Homewood Suites. I don't know, but I was at one of those, and I got a call, and it was just like, hey man, what are you doing? What's going on? How are you? And I just vomited all over him about like whatever drama was going on, and like how I was on the road, and like I never got to see my family, and all this stuff. And he was just like, man, I started doing this insurance thing, and I really thought you'd be good at this. That's why I'm calling. And he introduced me to the company that I started with and introduced me to this industry. So I already had like recruiting knowledge. I was already recruiting 1099 salespeople for a decade before I came into this industry. And one of the things that I found when I got here was just how far behind the insurance, specifically life insurance place or marketplace was compared to corporate America. Because I had worked for a number of large companies, and of course I was coming from a Fortune 500 company that had a ton of systems in place for posting job ads and interviewing and onboarding people. And you know, the insurance industry, the more that I met people in different IMOs and different captive companies, there's very few that actually have a systematic process built out. And there was a lot of like manual work of just like calling through resumes and stuff like that. And so immediately I was just like, oh man, I can take some of the stuff that I was doing in corporate America and I can apply that into an agency model. And that was kind of the genesis of building some of the funnels and some of the automations and conversion. And then, you know, what ended up happening for me was just, I'm building an agency and we'd get on, you know, a job board and it would be producing, and then, you know, it would get inundated and it would no longer be producing, or we'd get kicked off, or there'd be new terms and conditions that came out. And so my recruiting was kind of like a roller coaster, right? I'd have a couple good months and then a couple bad months, then a couple good months when I got on a new board, and it was just super inconsistent. And it was just, man, I've got to figure out a way. And so I spent a lot of time for my own agencies before AutoMentor, just for my own agency, figuring out how these job boards worked and figuring out how these companies worked and understanding the rules and the terms and conditions and the regulations and how their algorithms work and when jobs get the most visibility and body copy that people respond to and titles that people respond to. And I just really did a deep dive in figuring that out. AI came along and helped a little bit with that as well. But it gave me sort of a footing to really understand how to build a consistent model of candidates where I don't have to worry about ups and down months because, you know, now today, fast forward, I have a full team of people, you know, headed with my business partner, Mark Fowler, who does an amazing job in our leads department. And, you know, we have insulation where we know that we're always going to have candidates that are coming in. And so it's, like then basically it caught on. My agency started blowing up. And then some of my friends around me that were growing agencies were like, hey, what are you doing? And then it was like, oh, you can do what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, you know, we had 50 people on it. And it was like, hey, I think we should probably start marketing this thing and turn it into like something that can help a lot of agencies across the country. And so far, I mean, those numbers that you just said, this is our biggest year ever. We delivered 1 million candidates, you know, to subscribers, which is unbelievable that we had 1 million. Those are unique candidates, non-international, screened against Blacklist Alliance, screened against, you know, do not call list, like 1 million net. You know, there were no duplicates, you know, just like individuals. So if you actually look at that, the real number of people we had apply to our jobs is way higher than that. But, you know, enrolling 15,000 people in pre-licensing, and, you know, if you think about an average completion of 75% or so of people that are completing pre-licensing and getting licensed, the idea that we would have, you know, 10,000 new agents entered into this industry across our subscriber base in 1 year is unbelievable. I mean, I never thought that it would get that big, but the reality is the more that we see it, it's just like, there's never been a better time than right now for recruiting into our industry, regardless of what vertical of our industry you're in. If you're in P&C, if you're in Medicare, if you're in health insurance, if you're in life insurance, like I am, there's never been a better time. There's never been a more tumultuous job market than right now. We've had more layoffs this year, surplus of layoffs this year, than in any year in history since like 1982 or something like that. And there's so many more high quality people that are in the marketplace right now. And I don't know if you agree with this, but especially in life insurance, when I started in life insurance 8 years ago, it kind of had a little stigma to it. You know, it was like people were like, oh, did it get that bad for you? You had to go into life insurance. You know, it's like, it kind of had that stigma to it. And today that stigma is gone. Right. Today, people look at this industry and they're just like, wow, life insurance, that's a great business. That's a great business model to be in. Everybody needs life insurance. And how much more marketing do we see it? God, I can't go through one football game in the playoffs without seeing 25 Ethos commercials. You know what I mean? It's like, and like, shout out to them for advertising, but that's eyeballs on insurance in general. And so we're in an industry now that's becoming widely accepted at a time in our history as a country where independent work is becoming more widely accepted. And the idea of a W-2 salary being security is kind of gone away because so many people have had the rug pulled out from underneath them with no fanfare, just like, hey, see you later, best of luck, you're fired. That they're kind of realizing, no, owning my own thing is the actual security. And so when you couple those things together, I think in our industry, there's never been an easier time to get in front of clients. I think that there's more people looking for insurance today because of the aforementioned advertising that's going on. So it's never been easier, I think, to get in front of clients and make money in our industry. And there's never been a better time for recruiting, for finding high quality candidates. I'll say with a grain of salt, though, like there's a lot of knuckleheads too, right? So it's like when the market is growing, like you have a lot of good people, but like it's also exponentially growing with knuckleheads that nobody's teaching how to interview and nobody's teaching how to present themselves for jobs and are just completely clueless, don't even Google who they're about to interview with before they interview it. Like there's a lot of knuckleheads out there, but per capita and what we're seeing just in the growth of our agency and certainly the growth of AutoMentor, there's never been a better time to recruit people than right now in our industry. And like generational wealth is going to be created in our industry faster than it ever has. Obviously our industry already creates generational wealth, but my, the agency that I'm a part of, and Edward Pritchett, who you guys know, it will be infinitely faster for me to build a $60 million agency than it was for Edward, just because of the technology and the eyeballs and the candidates and the people that are out there. So it's just a really exciting time, man. And right now, the only thing that's holding people back from building an agency is how time consuming it is. And so that's why, we developed AutoMentor, so we could help take some of that time off of your plate and give you back time to either produce more or work with the agents that you hire. And
so Ryan, I'm really curious. I kind of want to go back to your origin story a little bit about how you got into insurance, but you came into insurance, I think already with a little bit of that, like knowing how important recruitment is for the overall growth of your agency.
Yeah.
Was there a time that you really realized, like it unlocked for you, that was a path towards unlocking more time freedom for you, was really a recruitment path?
Well, I think for me, it's because I think what you're saying happens to a lot of people for sure. I think for me, I came in knowing that I wanted to build an agency here because I was already building sales teams professionally anyway. And so I was like, man, if I'm already building sales teams for these companies that I'm never going to see the benefit of and my family's never going to see the benefit of, what if I just build them for myself? I have all the skills. I think that like I'd been doing sales for a long time. Like I started in sales in college and I'd been doing outside 1099 sales. Like I've never worked for a salary. Like I've been commissioned since I was 18 and I was very used to it. And I love commission only. I'm one of those people that like the thought of an hourly or salary is just kind of like nails on a chalkboard to me, because it means that I'm getting like something's getting held from me somewhere, if you're going to pay me something like that. And I trust myself. And so I've been doing sales and outside sales for a long time. A lot of my outside sales was in home improvement. And so, I was working with homeowners already. And so it was a pretty easy transition for me to come into life insurance because I was dealing with a lot of homeowners and I'd kind of already been dealing with that demographic for a while, right? So I was very comfortable in that environment. And I came in back when we were like seeing people in person and I was driving their house and stuff. And so, but I already knew that I was growing an agency, and the idea, the appeal of coming into this industry was passive income. And I saw people like Edward Pritchett, and I saw people like Griff Martin, and I saw people like Eric and Julie Perbula, like the people that helped me get started in this business. And I was just like, man, that's really cool. Like I remember there was a woman, and she was in the hierarchy that I was recruited into. Her name was Sarah Bailey. And she got cancer. She got breast cancer. She was young. And she was, like I met her at one of our conferences and then she got breast cancer. And I got to watch her like go through breast cancer treatment and like recovery and all those things. And her agency carry her through those, all of the production done in her agency. And I was like, man, I really want my life to be about helping people create financial freedom. I want my life about helping people own their own thing and not being a slave to the corporation or whatever, and to achieve their dreams and to have this flexibility that we have in our industry. And man, what it gets me excited when I think about it. Like I get to wake up every day and I get to help people build a life and an income and freedom and memories with their families, and have more quality time with their families. And it's just like, gosh, if I had to go through the pain and the trials and tribulations that it took to build an agency in the beginning, it's worth it if it means my day-to-day existence is helping people and helping them grow and like giving that impact to them. I've experienced that since I've been in this industry. So I think that for me, the selling was very natural. Like I'm one of the people, I hate to say this for those that don't feel this way, but I didn't struggle to start in this industry. Like I didn't struggle on the phones. I didn't struggle to sell. I didn't struggle to run appointments. I struggled to get business issued when I first started, because I was like really good at selling the sizzle, because that's all I'd been doing for 10 years. And I didn't know that there was underwriting guides and then like and stuff. So I struggled with that. But like the calls and the setting appointments and the meeting with clients and the writing applications, like that came very natural to me because I'd been doing it for so long. So if I hadn't been doing it for so long, it probably, like, I learned at some point in time, I went through the struggle back when I started in sales, and I learned that when I was, building my sales career. But I came into this industry because I saw all of the things that were so difficult for me to scale a team in other industries, I saw were just not a problem in this industry. And I was like, man, if I had what they had in insurance when I was doing home improvement, oh my God, like if I would be, 10 times richer than I am now or whatever. And it was like, all right, so it's time to really buckle down and do this. And so when I started, I had my first like 3 or 4 recruits on my team before I was even licensed.
Okay.
Like, I knew that they were going to be good. I knew they saw the same thing I saw. And so like California takes a little bit longer to get your license than other states. They passed their exam, right? And they got their license. And I'm just like sitting around going like, I hope my license comes in soon. But like, yeah, I was building from day one, and I was recruiting from day one. And it was my goal to, have an agency as big as, Edward Pritchett's, or as big as the master agency that I'm in.
Did you find difficulty in recruitment and personal production? Because you have produced personally at a high level too.
Yeah. So I think that the answer to your question is absolutely. It's anything that is worthwhile, I think, is frustrating like that. And there's a reason why people don't do it, right? Because it's difficult. And there's a reason why there's a high turnover, because most people at the first sign of adversity will just turn and run the other way, and they'll go back to safety, and, they'll go work for a company, and they'll give up their dreams and, all those things. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that there's a certain amount of, grit that it takes and determination that it takes. But man, I was literally every day driving in between appointments in Southern California across, all the traffic in Los Angeles. And eventually I started producing in Las Vegas, because believe it or not, I did less driving if I drove 3 hours to Las Vegas and then moved around Las Vegas, because of how big Southern California is. And so I was, so anyway, but I was driving around and I was calling resumes from the road as I was driving, like, hey, you applied to our job. And like, I'm out here right now. I just met with a client. We just wrote 2 applications, and, that's going to be $1,200 in my bank account tomorrow. And, like I was doing that recruiting, and I think that our industry, especially in life insurance, I would say this is probably for most insurance, but I don't have experience in a lot of the other verticals. But in life insurance, this is a hustler's game, right? The more, if you're selling, the more hustle you have, the better you do. I mean, you guys met Dylan Crane. That guy hustles harder than anybody I've ever met. There's no magic. Dylan's not an incredible salesperson. I'm with the guy all the time. And no slight to Dylan, but he's not some magician salesperson. He just works harder than everybody. That guy's calling people at 7 a.m. and he stops calling people at 10 p.m. and he runs 50 appointments a week. And, he just outworks everybody. That's hustle. And so the people that hustle, the people that get referrals, the people that work their book of business, the people that refer to advanced markets and, stuff like that, the write annuities and IULs, the hustlers win in this industry, regardless of skill level. I've brought on so many people on my team that I felt like, man, that person's got a great sales acumen. They look like me back when I was, working. They're a top producer. Oh my God, they've got all this track record in sales. and then they just don't hustle and they just like kind of kick their feet up and they do the minimum amount of work. Meanwhile, some of the top producers on my team are people that never did sales before ever, that just want it and grind. So I think that when you couple production and recruiting both, recruiting is also a hustler's market. The more people that you get in front of, the more people that you put this message in front of, the more people that you share what you saw in this industry, the more people will connect with it, the more people will get in licensing, the more people will join your team. And so it is about the hustle. And what I hoped to do and what we've accomplished with AutoMentor is just to give you more time to do the high dollar value activities and take all this like monotonous minutia of posting job ads and figuring out what works and what day to post and what city to post in. And, oh my God, I got flagged by trust and safety. And now I got to, do a complaint, or something like that. Have them review my profile, or I got to call through all of these candidates one by one and get them to watch a video. And like, we can solve all that with AI and automation and, with a great team working behind the scenes, and give me more time to do the sifted interviewing of the people that made it through, that are, the good people that are responsible, that know how to show up to an interview, and then gives me more time to sell. And it gives me more time to work with the agents that we've onboarded on our team and help them write their first applications and help them become profitable. I think one of the main things, and I'll turn this back over to you for the next question. I don't want to drag everything on, but there was a time when I realized that group interviewing for me was way better than individual interviewing. And I read this book, and got it right here. It's called How I Built a $37 Million Insurance Agency in Less Than 7 Years by this guy, Darren Sugiyama. Great book. Awesome. This guy was at American Income Life, I think. Anyway, but he might not have been. Sorry, Darren, if you end up watching this and I was wrong. But this book is super impactful, and it's very short, and it's in large print, so even dummies like me can read it. And it's pretty simple. But he talked about the process of group interviewing, and at that point in time, like here was what I was doing before. I was calling through all these resumes. I was sending people videos about the company that were interested. I was booking them on my calendar for 15-minute interviews. And I would have like 15 or 20 15-minute interviews booked on my calendar throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And half of those people would not answer the phone when I called them. Half of the people that answered didn't watch the videos, had no idea why I was even calling. And then like 25% of the people were like, yeah, I prepared for this. I researched the company. I think I'd be a really good fit. I've got some pointed questions for you. I'm ready. I'm ready to take notes. I'm ready to get these answers. And they were prepared. And what I found was when I did a group interview, that same 25% of people showed up. The same people that like did all the research, they showed up. The same 50% didn't. The same 25% showed up and didn't do any of the research. But now I only have them booked in a 1-hour slot on my calendar instead of a full day booked out of, I don't know if they're going to answer the phone or not. So now I can take that time and I can allocate it to running more appointments. I can allocate it to helping new agents on my team write business. I can allocate it to calling through some of the candidates that haven't booked an interview on my calendar yet and getting more, resolution out of the people that have applied. And so it's just being more efficient with time. And so I think the overall goal, if you're wanting to scale an agency, at least how it was taught to me, how do I get the same or better results in less time? And so if it's taking me 30 hours a week to produce X amount of dollars, how do I produce X amount of dollars in 20 hours instead of 30? And then take that 10 hours and apply it to recruiting. If it's taking me 30 hours a week of recruiting to get 15 people in pre-licensing, how do I get 15 people in pre-licensing in 20 hours of recruiting? Now, instead of only spending 20 hours, I still do the same 30, but I get 25 people in pre-licensing instead of 15, right? And that's how we grow exponentially, just becoming more and more efficient. So I found if I did 5 or 6 group interviews a week, I would interview way more people and find way more folks that I could actually bring onto our team and put in licensing than if I had a bunch of one-on-one interviews booked on my calendar. And I went the route of like, oh, let me hire a recruiter. But the reality is, like, when you're a new business and you're growing a business, you don't really have time to train and develop a recruiter. Yeah. And so like you're handing off the thing that you're the best at, you're the best at recruiting. Like, you're the salesperson. You're the best at delivering the message and inspiring and giving enthusiasm and painting the vision. Like, that's what you are the best at. If you're a salesperson, you're selling the opportunity, right? So, and you're giving that to somebody who's not as good as you. Otherwise, you'd have to pay them a lot more than you're paying them. And you don't really have enough time to train them and develop them and hold them accountable, because you got to go out and make the money to pay them. Right. So now, like, your results go down from building, and you're having to produce more so you can spend less time with your agents. And so I just like the idea that I was going to hire a recruiter and that recruiter was going to take all this time off of my calendar. It didn't prove to be true for me. Some of you may have gotten lucky. Maybe you hired somebody, they were an awesome fit, and they just like crushed it for you right out of the gate, and freaking awesome. Like, more power to you. For me, and for the people that I've seen tried to do that, like, it didn't really work. And so I needed to make sure that I identified what are my highest dollar value activities: meeting with clients, meeting with recruits, selling, right? It's my highest dollar value activity. And so I want to farm out all of the work that's not that. So setting appointments with clients, rebooking clients, booking referral appointments with clients. Great. But I would never have an admin on my team meet with one of my clients to sell them insurance. I want to do that. I'm the best at that. So why would I farm that out in interviewing, right? So it's like, how can I make sure that I'm using my time for the highest dollar value, most impactful activity, which is me inspiring and recruiting and like painting the vision and building relationships with people. So that's what AutoMentor does, is it farms out all the rest of that work. Like, you're not posting job ads. You're not having to stay active on the job boards. You're not sending out the initial interview requests. You don't have to worry about them, being reminded to show up to your interview. When you hire somebody, they automatically get your licensing information, and the AI follows up with them while they're in licensing and tells them how to get their fingerprints done and tells them how to get their licensing completed once they pass the exam. And all those things that take our time, we just can do through automation and AI. So all of my time is spent interviewing new people and onboarding new agents and helping them become profitable. That's that efficiency of like, how can I get the same amount of time done in 40 hours, or the same results in 40 hours rather than 60, and that was the name of the game for me. And that's why these things exist now.
I love it. Guys, in the chat, let us know as you've been following along, hopefully taking notes. But right, what feels heavier for you right now in the chat? Right? A for production, B for recruiting, or C for both. So let us know in the comments. And as Ryan was talking about, putting processes in place and leveraging that to free up more time.
Yeah.
Also let me know if you had 5 extra hours a week, which is 20 extra hours a month, which is another half a work week. What would you put that towards? Would you put it towards production and doing what you do best and selling and making more, or would you put it towards recruiting? Let us know.
Yeah.
It's
such a great question. Honestly, I think that answer depends on where you are in the business. Today, with an agency that's doing a couple $1 million a year, with some budding agency owners that are in my agency that also want to grow their own businesses, I think that extra 5 hours would be me teaching people how to do what I do. Right? How to recruit people, how to activate agents, how to help people write policies, how to help them be efficient. And there's somebody in the comments right now, Pio Carrillo, who's on who's my team. He's an agency owner in my agency. And that's like the best use of my time is helping Pio grow his agency, right? And helping grow a business partner into the same level of an agency that I'm at, because now we've got quadruple the resources, and we've got quadruple the people, and we've got quadruple the success stories, and we have momentum, and we have excitement and enthusiasm, and you can taste it. It's palpable. So I think like if I was brand new starting and I had 5 extra hours a week, my 5 extra hours a week would be going to writing policies. The lowest hanging fruit is additional policies on clients you've already sold. I would love to share that process with you, because Cameron asked a question about what are some ways that you can become more efficient? What are the top ways to become more efficient? You'd have to go back in the chat because so many people are writing A, B, and C right now. But Cameron asked a great question about like, okay, it's great that you're saying efficiency, but how do you become more efficient? So remind me to come back to that about production. But if I was brand new, it would be like, how do I make more money to fund recruiting? How do I make more sales? how do I get some more leads, or how do I, hire a dialer to help set appointments, or hire, somebody to follow up with my clients and rebook them on my calendar, or get referrals, or whatever. It probably would be, spending 5 more hours working in my book of business and expanding my income if I was new, because I'm going to need that not only for social proof, because I got to show the agents that I bring onto my team that you can do these things, but also because I need cash flow to do things that work in growing an agency, like doing lead credits and incentives and throwing trips and, getting people to conferences and flying out to meet people and building relationships with them and taking people out to dinner and like becoming friends and business partners. Like that all takes money. And so like the more that I could generate a nest egg to feed my recruiting, that's what's going to grow my recruiting income, right? My override or my spread, whatever you want to call it. And so it's like, I've got to make the money to invest in that. And I think that so many people are like, well, how do I get started in recruiting? It's like, well, I mean, listen, an AutoMentor account, is like $1,000 a month. If you want to get an AutoMentor account, it's not that much. Maybe you got to write 1 extra policy a month. Maybe you got to write 2 extra policies a month, and you can fund your recruiting. On top of that, we have a partnership with a licensing provider that gives you a rebate for everybody that you enroll in the course. Shout out to Just Insurance, who's freaking awesome. And, man, through your insurance license, you get $1,000 account, you put 10 people in pre-licensing and you get $1,000 back, right? So it's like, you can infinitely scale it. If I had an agency that was brewing, I think, my production is consistent. I'd spend that 5 extra hours calling through people that applied to jobs and didn't make it through, or people that I extended a job offer to that didn't take it up and didn't get in licensing, or following through with, some of those people that are like lost in the shuffle a little bit, lost in the cracks. Today, it's spending those times with people that are building an agency on my team. I think it depends on where you are in the business for that.
I love that. And I know Ryan likes to go out to eat. So if you guys do meet up with Ryan, take him to Maggiano's. He'll
love Maggiano's.
He loves Maggiano's.
What's not to like about like stuffing yourself with Italian food and getting Italian food to take home with you afterwards? Like this.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Come on, I'm Italian. I love it.
Cam, Mike, great questions. We'll get those answered in the Q&A. Keep them coming, guys. Drop them in the chat there. But there is a debate that always comes up when it comes to recruiting. What is it you wanted to ask Ryan about?
Yeah, so I hope over the next few minutes here, we can also get kind of tactical on some questions that we get a lot here. So licensed versus unlicensed, Ryan. We see this in the Facebook group all the time. People will debate back and forth about this. What do you think? How should agency owners actually think about hiring licensed versus unlicensed?
So I think that the best answer is yes. The best answer is sure.
I love it.
Absolutely. Right?
Typical.
But like, here's the thing. The idea of hiring licensed agents is the way that it is, I believe, marketed to our community, to the insurance agent community, is like this magical pixie dust that like, if you just hire licensed agents, you're going to grow and your agency is going to explode. And why not? Here's the thing. And I don't mean this in any bad way, because there's probably some people that are on this call right now that are in a model that I'm about to talk about. But the overwhelming majority of agents that are brought into our industry, specifically in life insurance, I'm just going to talk about life insurance, but the overwhelming majority of agents that are brought into life insurance are not brought in to be life insurance agents. They're brought in to become leads. They're brought in by these MLM companies, right? That don't have leads, that say, oh, like, let me bring you in and then you write a policy, or I'll write a policy on you, and then bring me your friends and family and you'll learn how to sell insurance while I write policies on them, right? And so like most of the agents that are hired in our industry, a huge percentage of them, they're hired to become leads. They're not hired because they would be good salespeople. They're not hired because they have a bright future in our industry or they've ever done sales before. They're hired to become leads. And it's sad that happens, that there's companies that do that. But what that means is, out of the, if there's 100% of licensed agents that, we're calling through a database of licensed agents, 75% of them are not good, are not meant to be in this industry, and probably should have never been introduced to this industry, right? And maybe those numbers are a little high. Maybe it's more like 50%, but a solid portion of them are not. And the other 30 to 40% are being fought over by every agency on the planet Earth, right? So it's just like there's such a small percentage of people that actually are a really good agent that's in a bad situation that your situation would make better. There's a lot of people that the same reasons why they're failing in their current situation are going to be the same reasons why they fail with you. Right? Like, because it's that they need to learn the grit and determination that it takes to succeed being an independent business owner. And they're going to learn that somewhere. Maybe they're in an agency where they're buying a bunch of leads and the leads aren't really good and they've got cancellations. They're working in, like a high cancellation vertical, like final expense or something like that. And they've got a bunch of chargebacks and roll-ups. And now they're coming to you with baggage. They're coming to you with debt. They're coming to you with suspicions of like, well, the last guy told me that if I bought leads, I'd make money too. And I didn't. And so it's always a little bit more difficult, I think, when we look at the numbers, and believe me, I've analyzed these numbers backwards and forwards of the percentage of previously licensed agents that become consistent writers versus the percentage of unlicensed agents that get their license and become consistent writers, right? There's way more salespeople in the United States of America than there are licensed insurance agents, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a bigger market, there's a bigger pool of people that are in sales that are open-minded to selling anything. They sold medical devices, they sold pharmaceuticals, they sold education, they sold software, and they're like, "Well, why not insurance?" That's kind of how I was. It's like, whatever. I'm in sales. I'll sell windows and doors, I'll sell solar, I'll sell, outdoor living. Why not insurance? Like, okay, fine. So there's way more of people that are out there that have done sales or want to get into sales or think they'd be good at sales than there are licensed insurance agents. So yes, should you be like actively recruiting licensed insurance agents? 100%. Should you put all of your eggs in that basket? No. Should you be extremely diligent about really talking to them about their experience? One of the things that I loved is like you're interviewing a licensed insurance agent and just ask them, why isn't it working where you are?
Good
Are there
question.
people in that agency that are making money? Are there people in that agency that are successful? Why do you think it's not working for you? And just listen.
Yeah.
If they're like, oh, because so-and-so's an asshole and because, oh, they treat me terrible, like, oh, whatever. Like, you think that's not going to happen to you?
Yeah.
You think that's a that company problem and not the person problem? Right? If it's if there's a reasoned argument that's just like, yeah, this doesn't work for me. I know people are making money here, but I don't know. I haven't found traction. And I guess I'm looking for a change of scenery or something like that. It's okay. Awesome. Maybe they're in an environment that doesn't have leads and you have leads. Maybe they're in an environment where they had to go knock doors and you can do virtual sales, or something like that. And so there are a percentage of people that would be really good, but it's nowhere near the size of the market of people that are just in sales that would be willing to get their license in a week or 10 days and start fresh, you know what I mean? And get after it and, and hustle. So I've had plenty of people on my team that were previously licensed. My top producer last year on my team, Brian Bass, who you guys know.
Yeah.
Brian Bass, #1 producer on our team last year, did over 400,000, had an amazing year.
Let's go.
He had his license before he came. He was working for more of a captive agency and he was capped and he was unhappy and he was a good person in a bad system.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. But for every one Brian Bass, there's 70, like not Brian Bass. And so that's where it's just like, yeah, do them both, but just be cautious of previously licensed agents and be smart about the energy that you bring into your organization. And if they're bringing baggage or if they're bringing drama or if they're bringing resentment, that they take out on you, that's got nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? I think that can be challenging.
There's a saying that comes to mind when we talk about this. Everywhere you go, there you are.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Like,
so with AutoMentor, we don't actively recruit licensed agents.
Right.
They find us because they're applying to sales jobs, right? People with their license or people that like went in and started their license with another company and maybe stopped, or something like that. So we get plenty of people that are either licensed or in the process somewhere. We've just found that it's so much easier for us to find people that are open to sales and looking to be in sales in our industry that are already 1099 and used to commission only and are very happy to be so. It's so much easier to find a willing participant and, an open mind that way than it is to find licensing or license agents. The other thing is when you're using a course like Just Insurance, and you're getting $100 per enrollment of people that you enroll into pre-licensing. Well, you don't get that with a licensed agent. They already have their license.
Right.
So now you're spending money to recruit licensed agents, and you're not making, a rebate on putting them through licensing and covering the cost of your recruiting. And, maybe they come in and maybe they write an app and you make your spread, and that's awesome. And you can recoup some of your hard costs of recruiting. But if you're doing both, you're getting both benefits,
Yeah. No, I love that. Guys in the chat, if you had to pick one, especially after listening to Ryan in the chat, write L for licensed agents, recruiting licensed agents, or U for unlicensed agents. Let us know in the chat takeaways on that. And now, Ryan, you touched on this previously, and love if you expand on it a little bit here. You don't interview one-on-one right now, which you mentioned. You interview in groups, and
Yep.
Why does that matter? Especially in like terms of even with like the group dynamics and involving kind of candidates in the story and buy-in. If you could,
powerful
with those areas, that would be super powerful.
Yeah, so incredible. Like, number one, you don't have time, right? Like your greatest asset, your most valuable asset when you're growing an agency is time. You're doing 2 full-time jobs already. Right. So if you're going to get the same result and talk to the same people in 1 hour that you would having your calendar blocked out for 5 or 6, say no more. Right. Like, you're already saving that time and becoming more efficient, and you're learning how to do those things. Now, yeah, doing a group interview has some different dynamics than doing a one-on-one interview. That's why we do group interview training every week. We have a script and we have a slide deck that we give people to follow along with until they get the hang of it. Twice a week, we do training on how to do group interviews. But one of the cool things that comes out of doing group interviews is that for people that are prepared to interview, a lot of times they are coming to an interview to sell themselves to you. And if you are doing that one-on-one, a lot of times most people are making it seem like there's other people interviewing. I'm talking to a lot of people. Why should we choose you over somebody else? If we chose you, what would you bring to our team? They're already acting like there's more people that they're interviewing, and usually there are. So why not just put them around those people? So like now we do a group interview and they're sizing each other up. I love kicking people off my group interview. It's one of my favorite pastimes. It warms my heart. I just love hitting the remove button. I made a reference last week for anybody who has kids. My kids are 10 and 12, and so we're big Lego fans. And there's a Lego movie called Ninjago, the Lego Ninjago movie. And there's a character in that movie named Garmadon. Garmadon's the evil villain, and he's got a volcano, and he fires his generals out of the top of the volcano. And that's how I envision what I'm doing on these group interviews. I'm just like, boom, like, get out of here. And I'm not mean and I'm not insulting, but like, there's people that show up. I had a woman last week who she was parked and then she put her foot up on the steering wheel, no shoes, no socks, just clipping her toenails in the middle of a multi-figure interview. Right. No. So like those types of people, I love just like ejecting and getting out. Because what happens is when you start like holding the standard a little bit higher, the good people on the interview go like, oh man, this guy's serious. Like, hold on, let me sit up straighter and like, let me lock in here for a minute, because they know that you're not willing to accept all that BS. And there's a standard that they need to present themselves to. And so the more people that I can like remove that are showing up, no offense to anybody who smokes, but I don't think anybody on this interview would be smoking during the middle of their interview. But I get people on my interviews all the, like cooking, walking around the grocery store, driving, you know what I mean? Like, all right, those people need to go. Like they're not going to fit in our industry. They're not going to fit. Like they don't even know how to present themselves. How are they going to sit in front of a client? Right. So so I got to get those people off first off. So now I set a tone in the interview where people are seeing like, all right, this is serious. This has some credibility to it. There's some conviction here. And so I go through how we work and our opportunity and how to get licensed and how our leads work and all those things, involving them along the way. And when we get to the end of the interview, I create what I call the agent death match, which is my favorite part of the interview, which I'll go around and I'll be like, so Elle, and now that you've heard everything that we have to offer, why do you think we should bring you onto our team? And why should we choose you over somebody else? And Elle's going to be like, oh, because I'm great with people and I've been doing sales forever and I've always been a top performer and like, I'd be great on your team. It's like, awesome. Elle, if we brought you onto our team, when would you be able to enroll in the pre-licensing course and complete pre-license? I'd be able to do it today. Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Elle. Stay on for a minute. David, Now that you've heard everything that we have to say, why do you think we should choose you and not somebody else? And now David's going to try to one up L. Well, David, when did you get enrolled in the course?
Already signed up while you're talking.
I'll sign up right now. Send it to me immediately. The third person. Okay, Bill, what about you? Now that you've heard what they have to say, why do you think we should choose you over somebody else? And every subsequent person will try to outsell the other person. And subconsciously what's happening is they're selling themselves on wanting to be on your team. They're putting themselves out there. They're selling themselves on this having value. So after I end the interview and I send the message to the people that I want to hire and it says, congratulations, they feel like they've won, right? Like they were accepted. They weren't the last kid chosen for dodgeball, right? Like they're like, oh my God, I put myself out there. I was chosen. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, woo. And they start to get excited. And now I have leverage through the rest of the process. If I hire David and David doesn't sign up for licensing right away, I can call him and be like, hey, David, you said you were going to sign up for licensing right away. Are you still into this or should I bring on one of those other people? I chose you over them. Hey, David, you said you were going to be done with licensing by the end of this week. You know, you're about 30% done. It's 5 days in. Are we going to kick this into high gear or should I bring on one of those other people? Hey, David, you said you were going to do, 500 dials this week and you were going to set 15 appointments. It looks like you only did 110. Are you still going to do this or should I bring on one of those other people? And I have
don't bring on L. I can do it.
Yeah. Right. So I have leverage through the rest of the process. And so that's one of the other dynamics that I love about group interviewing is creating that competition. Now you can do that in one-on-one interviewing. You can do like exactly what I just said. They don't know that there's not 10 other people that you're interviewing. Maybe there are. And like, they don't know that maybe you hire more people than you say you hire, or whatever. Like you can give them that same type of urgency and exclusivity of the position. But I just love doing it when they can see people together around them and they're like sizing each other up and there's like competition or whatever. I love when I have like 3 really good people and I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to be so difficult to make this decision. You're all so awesome. Gosh, I wish I could hire all of you. And then I send all 3 of them the hiring notice anyway. You know what I mean? Like, and they all feel like they've won and I chose them. It's like, I love that energy that we can create in an interview like that and in a format. And it's just really difficult to do that if you're not in a group. One of the things that I shared when we were together at the SWAT conference for anybody who wasn't there, I love bringing new agents onto my interview. And so I'll get a new agent that's on my team that wrote a couple apps and I'll be like, hey, John, can you jump on my interview on Tuesday? The same thing that happened with you when you were on the interview. Like there's people that are skeptical on there. And I just want them to hear from somebody like you that went through this and is new and is having some success. Could you jump on? And now I bring John on and I'm like, hey, John, tell him about your experience. And John's like, oh my God, I was just like you guys just a couple months ago. I applied on Indeed and I met Ryan and the culture is phenomenal and the agency is amazing. I got some leads and I made a sale and I got $1,000 in my account. It's unbelievable. And now I walk on water as a recruiter. Everything I say is gold, right? All of the people on the interview are just like, this guy's legit because I've got John on there talking to third-party credibility. And now John is getting comfortable sharing his story in front of people. I go to John and be like, hey man, you were so great. On Thursday, could you jump on and talk to people about leads? Because, a lot of people they're a little suspicious of leads and like they're suspect of if they should put money into it or not. And I just share with your experience, what your experience with leads has been. Now I get him explaining leads. Hey, John, dude, you're so good at this, man. On Monday, can you talk to them about like your process of getting licensed and how that was for you? Because a lot of people, they haven't taken tests in a while. And you think you can explain licensing to them. And now John explains licensing. Now, John's telling his story and leads and licensing. So on Thursday, it's like, John, why don't you do the whole interview? I'll be there with you. Anybody we get, we'll put on your team.
Perfect.
And now I'm manufacturing builders, you know what I mean? And like, doing group interviews like that it's so easy to manipulate, like time to where I would have to do that all one-on-one. I would have to do like a one-on-one like training session instead of just having them watch what I'm already doing. And involving them in it little by little. And so I can compress time frames and I can sort of manipulate time and get 2 birds with 1 stone. So that's why I love doing group interviews. Is why I believe in group interviews. It takes longer. Like you're taking longer to interview because it's an hour to do a group interview and it takes practice. You need to learn how to present and be dynamic and look into the camera rather than looking down at your screen. And, and it takes there's some skill that's required, but the skill's not difficult to learn and you become so much more efficient by doing group interviews. And obviously I'm biased and I'm passionate about it because I have a platform that helps people do group interviews. But That would be my answer.
I love that. I love all the strategy and highlights around why you chose that, why that's a part of your system, and how you can use that and leverage that to be even more effective and, of course, time efficient than the one-on-one interviews. And that is a recruiting, hiring process here. I think, a lot of people in this industry are only exposed to, oh, you have a pulse? Yes, come on. And it's more it's more begging than recruiting.
And because they don't realize how much work that's going to be on the back end to drag that person around.
A terrible situation for themselves, but they think that, oh, that works. I'm bringing people through the door, not realizing that's going to suck up all your time, energy, and people that you're trying to drag to show up for work versus actually people that are helping you build. So I love that. I hope it gets everybody's mind sparking around that. And Ryan, you've talked a lot about how recruitment only works when it's systematized and not dependent on the owner doing everything manually, like you talked about. Is this the exact problem AutoMentor was built to solve? And what does that look like for those that say, listen, AutoMentor, how does that help?
Yeah, AutoMentor is not magic though. Right, like the people that are getting the best results. I mean, we got a guy on the symmetry side of things that he's got a $4,000 a month account. He put 47 people into pre-licensing last month, and so he made $4,700 in rebates on his $4,000 account. Plus, got all those people in licensing, essentially, getting paid to put people in licensing. But he didn't just do that by like just showing up and not doing any work. Like he's hustling. He's calling through the people that didn't get booked by the automation, and he's calling the no-shows, and he's booking some one-on-one interviews with people that aren't available at the times that he's available. And he's, staying accountable for the people that said that they were going to sign up for the course today and didn't. And he's hustling, he's grinding. And there's so many people that are contracting 15, 20, 30 agents a month on our platform, and they're getting rebates that cover their entire cost. If they have a $3,000 account, they're putting 30 people in licensing, like they're getting it for free essentially, and they can infinitely scale that. And so I think that it does solve a lot of the low dollar activities, posting job ads, figuring out when to post, where to post, doing the initial outreach to everybody, booking people on your calendar, rebooking no shows. But the more that you can take, let's say it saves you 15 hours a week, the more that you can take those 15 hours and use them for direct money-making activity of putting in that extra effort to recruit people, rather than just kicking your feet up for 15 hours. If you can reallocate those to activities in your business, those are the people that are killing it. Those are people like, Jeff Miller in our ecosystem, who's just like on fire exploding, and his agency is just on fire exploding, bringing on hundreds of people, and just massively growing, is because that's what they do, right? They take every ounce of efficiency and they reallocate that unused time to money-making activities and high dollar value activities. So I think that's the lesson that I learned, is like, nobody would take their insurance leads and put them in a CRM and just let the automation run and never call any of their leads. Right. That's preposterous.
100%.
For some reason with recruiting, we do. We're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw them in this funnel, and whoever doesn't book, I'm not going to call. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? And so that would be like posting a job on ZipRecruiter and getting 200 people to apply, and you don't call any of them. It's like, you're just losing out on those people.
Yeah.
So I think that allocating, like taking the things that are monotonous, calling people that just got into licensing and saying like, don't take a million notes and skim and quiz and get to the exam, okay, automation can do that. You don't need to be making all those calls every day. You don't need to hire a recruiter and pay all the money for a recruiter to do that for you. Like, that's AI and automation. That's a video. That's something that very easily could be taken care of for little to no cost. That just helps you scale effectively. And then hire your recruiter to like mentor new agents that like actually get contracted and are taking leads and are writing applications and stuff like that. The stuff that's actually going to make you money, like the stuff that really is going to affect your business. So I think it's just proper allocation of time. Here's the thing that really changed the game for me, that exploded my production and gave me 3 times the results in the same amount of time. And it's really silly. It's called the emergency contact form. And how that works is I go and I write a policy for David and Elle, and the policy gets approved. And immediately when we write the policy, I'm booking a second meeting with them to go over the policy details once it gets approved. So now I already have a meeting on the books. I'd be like, David and Elle, seems like Wednesday nights work really well for you. Does next Wednesday night work well? Great. Let's just put it in the calendar right now. Your policy should be approved by then. I'll go over it with you. Awesome. Now, if they get declined, I already have another appointment on the books to meet with them to write another policy. And I have time to figure out what policy I'm going to write and why it got declined and all those things, right? But let's say it doesn't get declined. So now I meet with David and Elle, go over the policy with them. Here's your policy documents. They either got it in the mail or I have an electronic copy of it I can share with them, and they're going to get it in the mail, whatever. And now I go, okay, David and Elle, if something happens to you, God forbid, who's going to be calling me to do a claim? I'm going to fill out your emergency contact form. And David's like, my best friend. Okay, awesome. What's his name? And what's his phone number? Awesome. Okay, great. Who else might be calling me? My sister. Okay, awesome. What's her name? What's her phone number? Elle, what about you? Oh, my cousin, my mom, my aunt. Like, you're going to name off anybody who might be calling me. And every time you say something, I'm going to be like, who else might be involved? Anybody else? Anybody else that might be calling me? Mom is hung up and, sister's distraught or whatever. Anybody else that might be calling me to do a claim? I just want to have their information here so I know that they're calling for you. Awesome. I get 5 or 6 people, whatever it is. There's usually at least 3 to 5 emergency contacts that might be calling me if there's a claim, right? So now I'm going to start calling the emergency contacts. And let's say that one of David's emergency contacts is John. I'm going to call John. I'm going to say, hey, John, my name is Ryan Federico. I'm an insurance agent. I wrote a policy on your best friend, David. And he told me that if anything happened to him, you might be calling me to help do a claim. And so I just wanted you to have my number. I want you to save it in your phone, just so you know, if anything happens to David, I'm the person to call. I will help do a claim. I'll get the money to the family. I'll handle it all. Let me tell you a little bit about how David's policy works. If he dies, it pays out. If he dies in an accident, it pays out, right? He's got living benefits. So if he has a heart attack or stroke or cancer, the policy is going to pay out, even if he doesn't die, right? If he has a major disability and he can't feed himself or dress himself or bathe himself for 90 days or more, or he's in the hospital, call me. I'll help get a claim done. And when I just explain the benefits, all I'm doing is saying, if something happens to David, call me. I will help everything. And here's all the things that David's policy does. And naturally, 2 out of 5 of those people will be like, how much does something like that cost? And it's a keeping up with the Joneses. It's a, well, if my brother did this, I should do this. If my best friend did this, if my son did this, I should have a policy like that. Then there's natural credibility. David trusts you. I should trust you too. And so I go, well, hey, let's get some of your details here. And now I write a policy on John and I rinse and repeat and do the same thing on John. John, who would your emergency contacts be? And then I write a policy on Billy. And then Billy, who would your emergency contacts be? And I write a policy on Erica. And this is how you can turn one appointment with a client into 15, 20, 30 policies, right? Now you have more people that if you do things like annuities, you can market annuities to. You can send out a mass email to people. If you do things like index universal life or retirement funding, things like that, you can market those things to them, right? These are additional clients that are going to have kids that you write kids policies on and college savings plans and all those things. And so this is a way that in the same amount of time that you're already spending with your clients, less time dialing to set appointments, less time hustling to find clients, right? Because you're getting these referrals that don't even know they're referrals. I don't need to ask David's permission to call his emergency contacts to say, here's my phone number in case something happens for David. And I don't ask the emergency contacts, what do you have? I don't cross that boundary unless they ask me, right? Like, hey, how much does something like that cost? And they get interested just because David got it, right? And so this is a way that you can double and triple your production, very little additional time. There's no competition. They're not shopping you around to other people. They didn't fill out a lead form where 20 people are calling them, you know what I mean? And they're going to give you referral after referral after referral after referral. And I mean, man, my direct mentor, Eric and Julie Prabula, they're up to 90 applications on one lead right now. Wow. They got invited to the woman's wedding. They were in the wedding for her, you know what I mean? Like the original one. This is what I'm talking about. So you can get way more efficient in your production through little things like this, save yourself all that time and allocate that time to building your agency.
I love it.
If you get this efficient in building, man, you'd be an unstoppable force.
What agents are also taking those steps to do it? I know, like, we're talking about this to create conversations, create opportunities to fill up the pipeline, but wow, what a service you're doing to the client. Like, how
Totally.
good do they feel? Be like, oh my gosh, my agent called you, gave you the information, explained like what would happen in that scenario. Like, agents aren't doing that kind of stuff. And I have to imagine that your persistency is definitely
Massive.
improving. Or
And what's going to happen? John's not going to be like, hey, and also I was interested. I got a policy from him. David's not going to be like, that's a terrible idea. Like, I can't believe Ryan did that. You know? Yeah. So it's like a no harm. And you don't have to do that uncomfortable thing of like, who else do you know that needs insurance, and ask like referrals that way.
Yeah.
It's just a much easier way to do it. And man, it's served me incredibly well, and it serves agents on my team incredibly well.
If recruiting feels heavy and consistent, or just like something, oh man, I really would love to get started with that in a way that is predictable and systematized, so I still have time to produce, I still have time to focus on those areas, then your next step is really, there's a QR code on the screen there. If you're on your phone, don't worry, you can go check out afterwards, so you don't have to leave the webinar to go there, but we'll also make sure to get the links out to everybody. But go ahead and scan the QR code there, go and fill it out, go ahead and just get the info, the demo, what that looks like, what they can do for you guys. Brian and Mark are absolutely amazing. We know them both personally. They're friends. They're absolutely incredible people, and who just have a heart for not only this industry and the insureds and who they're helping, but with helping agents grow and be successful. And that's what I love, is Ryan is always happy to give away strategies, techniques, what they've learned, put in place. He's not gatekeeping anything, and he's absolutely incredible. So please connect. Good friends to have for sure in this industry.
So I think that in recruiting, one of the things that we teach when we do our training classes twice a week, that are free, by the way, you don't have to be a subscriber to attend our training classes, but one of the things that we preach is presenting the prize before the price. And this is a very common lesson in recruiting in general. It's that we want the idea of what this could be for somebody's life, or what they really want in their life, for them to see that it's possible in our company or with our model, before we talk about costs, right? So if somebody's like, I'm driving so far for work and I never get to see my kids, and it's costing me so much in daycare, and my boss is mean, or something like that, and it's this why they're looking for something new. Well, I want to talk about how they can get what they really want in their life, which is more time with their kids, more flexibility, working in a fun environment without people who are mean, right? Like being in an industry that is really rewarding, all of those things. And when I talk about them getting what they really want in their life, the cost for licensing is very insignificant. It seems very small. They're like, oh, a couple $100 and I get my license and that's it. And all of a sudden, like, I don't have to deal with that boss anymore, and I get more time with my daughter. And shoot, I'm spending, $1,500 a month in childcare that I wouldn't need to do anymore, or whatever. And so they start to justify the costs because you presented the prize before the price. Same thing with like buying leads. If you're buying leads in an agency or something like that, you say, let's talk about what the income looks like, and let's talk about what the flexibility and the freedom looks like, and let's talk about being able to work nationwide and being able to work remotely, and how I've written applications from different countries, and things like that on vacation, and that you have the ultimate freedom and flexibility if that's what they want, right? And now all of a sudden they see, oh man, what I really want in my life is available here, and these people are getting it, and there's proof, and it's working. Yeah, so I got to spend a couple $100 on leads. Like, no problem. That sounds great. The cost seems very insignificant. Whenever I see people that are jaded in recruiting, this happens because you're going to hire people that you believe in, that you're like, this person's going to be awesome, and they're going to ghost you. And some of them are going to write apps that roll up and you have to pay for them. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be those things that happen that disillusion you to recruiting. Usually only if you're recruiting it's small numbers. If you're recruiting at massive numbers, that doesn't really bother you much because there's so many more people that are winning. But if you're only recruiting 2 or 3 people a month, it's like, those hurt, and they disillusion you to recruiting, and they make you sort of like when you have a bad relationship with somebody, like the next person that you date, you kind of like have to protect yourself from them. You know what I mean? And it's a little unfair. Well, it's kind of the same thing that happens when you get burned by an agent, or you believe in somebody and they ghost you, or they don't do what they say they were going to do, or whatever. Is all of a sudden you show up on your interviews and you're like, all right, before we get started, I just want everybody to know this is commission only. You have to buy leads, and you're going to pay $200 for a license. And if you got a problem with that, kick rocks, right? And you like, because you're protecting yourself, right? You're protecting yourself from being disappointed and from being hurt and from having those agent but you're not giving them any reason for that to be valuable yet.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine meeting with an insurance client and like they get on and you're just like, it's $200, right? And not like, hey, why do you want insurance, and what's going to be the reality in your life if you don't have this? And so that's what happens when people get burned in recruiting, is that they start like posturing and like protecting themselves because they're a little jaded, or they're a little disappointed, or they're hurt because they gave their belief to somebody that violated it. And so then they start like telling people the cost before they even paint the picture of why they'd want to do it. And so the more that you can get into why somebody wants to be in this industry, what they want in their life, and that it's possible for them to get what they want in their life wherever you are in your company, that's when you can talk about pricing and they're just like, done. That sounds great. $150 for the course, and $100 to get my license, or whatever. If you have an opportunity cost, or if you have an ICA agreement or something like that, whatever, those costs seem very insignificant when it's life-changing decisions that are going to get them where they want to go in their life, if that makes sense. So it's prize before the price.
Recruitment done right is how time freedom's built. And that's how you can grow and scale and put more time to those core specialty areas like production for your business on that side as well. So I think
I got to coin that as it's like something to put on our website.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. Listen, I got a licensing fee. It's not bad. Don't worry.
That was awesome. That was great, man.
It was all right. So anything brilliant is just her and then me regurgitating. So but no, Ryan, we thank you so much for hopping on, for joining us. And guys, please really think about the future of business. Think about 2026. Think about, where do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? Maybe last year's the year I got my feet under me, and this is the year I grow my team, or I grew my team some last year and I want to 5x it. I want to 10x it. It's amazing industry, and it needs more amazing people helping people and building the lives that they really want, desire as well. So I always love awesome people coming into the industry and people that help them do so, like Ryan. So thank you, Ryan, so much for joining us.
I love you guys.